It's time for another edition of College List Deathmatch. Today's contenders are MIT and Caltech. Caltech versus MIT. Which is the best for a reach spot on your college list if you only have one more space on your college list? And I would assume, since both of these schools are highly selective, that this would actually occupy the top slot on your college list, because these are very deep and narrow institutions related to math, science, engineering, that whole constellation, basically the creme de la creme of academics related to those subjects, those fields, those disciplines. Would warrant that you would be saving the very top slot on your college list for one of these colleges to be your number one school. Very few people should or would have MIT or Caltech particularly low on a list. That would be quite rare. And therefore, if you have only one spot left on your list and you really want to know which one is the best, this is my perspective on which one I would choose if I was in your shoes. So this is the big topic areas I would sort of focus on. These are the ones that I would focus on. Number one, location matters a heck of a lot, right? That's completely different locations. Caltech is a school that is in Pasadena, California. It's about an hour away from LAX, the main airport in Los Angeles. It's about 30-40 minutes away from downtown Los Angeles, depending on the traffic. And it's in a nice, again, sort of suburban urban area that's called Pasadena. It's relatively safe by LA standards. It is beautiful weather. And there's a lot obviously going on in the overall metropolitan area and all of Southern California. You can do so much. There's quite a lot of opportunities there. MIT is in Massachusetts. Again, College Town, USA is what I normally call Boston. So many different colleges, older urban area of the United States. Cambridge is a small little area right in the hub of Boston proper. It's in Massachusetts. It gets quite cold there. Boston Logan Airport is about 20-25 minutes away, depending on traffic. So those are two things that, those are two locations that are quite disparate for MIT versus Caltech. Another big differentiation point, Caltech has about 1,000 undergraduates. MIT has about 4,700 undergraduates as of this filming. So that's a very big spread. If you want much more personalized attention and much smaller classes and much smaller class in terms of graduating classes, much more intimate academic learning environment, Caltech is quite a bit smaller than MIT, but MIT is by no means large when you think about the large state universities in the United States that are upwards of 50,000 plus, 40,000 plus, or larger, and many very well known and renowned campuses like Michigan and UVA, they're still multiple times larger than MIT. You're still getting a lot of personalized attention and small vibes, if you will, at a school like MIT, but it is quite a bit larger than, undergraduate-wise, Caltech. Another big point of differentiation is the fact that their admissions processes are quite a bit different than they used to be. And at least as of, again, this filming in 2023, Caltech is in the middle of a moratorium on considering SAT or ACT scores with your overall application for admission. So let's say you love math and you have done all the math competitions you could get your hands on, you've won them, you started a math club at your school, you're a math tutor, you have engineering related stuff on your resume, you just bleed math, engineering, STEM related topics, and you're an all-star and you got a 1590 on the SAT. Which one would you rather apply to? Caltech, the school that won't look at the 1590, or MIT, the school that requires the 1590? Because MIT, unlike Caltech, has made the decision recently to reinstitute the requirement that students submit the actual SAT or ACT scores with their application, unlike every other supposedly selective elite institution in the United States of America right now, all of which are still test optional, or in the case of the UCs, test blind. And Caltech is one of those cases of California schools that have gone test blind. There's a real big differentiation point between Caltech and MIT. So, with all of that in mind, if you are a typical student who's really interested in rigor and therefore attracted to these powerhouses in math, science, engineering, you name it, traditionally, you were going to be very confident in knowing that all members of your class at both these schools would be extremely capable of scoring well on standardized tests, which is not demonstrative of everything that a student or person is capable of, but it is one binding tie that all the students used to have in common at both of these schools. No longer is that the case. Caltech, since they've instituted this moratorium on reviewing SAT or ACT scores as a part of their application, is basically saying we would like to know about everything about you except for your standardized tests. And a heck of a lot of that, if not all of that, is far more gameable or airbrushable than one's SAT or ACT scores. And so for this reason alone, the fact that MIT requires the SAT or ACT for admission, and the fact that Caltech requires you not to be able to share the SAT or ACT for admission, for that reason alone, if you are a hard-charging, serious academic who wants to be challenged from day one during your undergraduate experience by peers and professors, I would say there is no question that in terms of this episode of College List Deathmatch, MIT is the clear, far and away winner. You should go with MIT. MIT also has a greater diversity of majors and academic programs because of its size. But really the thing that clinches it for me is the fact that, do you want to be around real deal students across the board? Or do you want to leave it to the Caltech admissions committee to curate a class based off of a lot of criteria, almost every criteria other than standardized test score performance? That's ultimately a choice you have to make aligned with your value system. What I will say is that Caltech may be the better choice for you if you are objectively weak on the SAT or ACT, but you have tried very hard in high school to pursue your passion for STEM or math or science in great depth. You love these discipline areas. You want personalized attention, and you also want to appear to be going to a very rigorous school, one that may not be as rigorous as it used to be because they have to accommodate for students who are objectively unable or unwilling to do well on their SAT or ACT, because these scores are now no longer a required part or even a reviewed part of the application process. But if you are capable of getting a very strong SAT or ACT score, let's say a 34, 35, 36 on the ACT, anything above a 1500 really, maybe even above a 1530 or 40 on the SAT, I think you owe it to yourself to put MIT on this top spot on your college list. And I wish you the very best, whatever you choose to do. This is one man's opinion. It is not considered guidance that you should absolutely follow, because you very well could have a very different value system, a different prism through which to view this situation for you personally and your goals. But there is no question that the longer the Caltech continues to require students to hide their SAT or ACT from them in the review process for admission, the longer Caltech will be fiddling while their academic reputation burns, because there is no question that every other part of the college application is far more capable of being manipulated by nefarious or actors who do not necessarily share the truth all the time. And as a result, the SAT, the ACT being standardized tests, objective measures, does really reveal reality in a way that the other measures do not. Now, does it mean that a rich kid can't pay to get a higher SAT score if he puts a lot of effort in with a tutor? Well, arguably you could say that, but a rich kid could also just as easily pay someone, if not more easily, pay someone to write his college application essay. A rich kid could much easier pay a teacher to write a strong letter of recommendation for him or her than he could game a higher SAT or ACT score. So again, let's hope no one's paying anyone for any of this. But the fact of the matter is, in the scheme of things, the SAT and the ACT are and were the least manipulatable parts of the college application process vis-a-vis student academic performance. Whereas all you hear in the media is the SAT and the ACT are benefit rich, wealthy, white people. That, from my experience, is not the case. I have worked with plenty of wealthy white people and people from other religions and other races and other demographics as well, of course. And the thing that slows down the majority of those applicants are their test scores, not their essays, not their letters of recommendation, not their grades even, because grade inflation is, of course, a very real thing, especially in the United States. The SAT and the ACT score are the least gameable parts of the college application. And the fact that Caltech has jumped in with the UCs and other California schools to basically go test blind, I think was one of the most underreported yet huge stories of the past several years. And I really sincerely hope for both Caltech alumni, Caltech professors, and the Caltech institution itself, I hope that now that the affirmative action case is in the past, that the powers that be and cooler heads prevail at Caltech and decide to reinstitute some form of standardized assessment. Does it have to be the SAT or ACT? No, it does not. But some form of standardized assessment so that they can owe it to their own students and professors and reputation that they are bringing in individuals who are all starting at a similar level of ability vis-a-vis their ability to output content on a standardized assessment. If you don't like the SAT or ACT, create something else. But for the very reason that Caltech no longer will review your SAT or ACT score, but you could write an essay about something completely unrelated to math, science, or STEM, and that could be the factor that helps diversify that Caltech class and get you in, over the fact that maybe you're hiding a 1230 or 1280 or even 1330 on the SAT. That, to me, is the very definition of a travesty. So that's why I go with MIT for today. And for past episodes of College List Deathmatch, definitely watch the videos linked below this video, because I have some of my old catalog collections of College List Deathmatch episodes. I do like the weather in Southern California, but you can always vacation or get a job maybe one day or start a business in Southern California. But I would brave the colder weather at MIT to be sure that you're around a greater preponderance of students who are academically all in, like you will be if you get in to MIT. Talk to you soon.